Hi there, everybody, and thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Roger Tumminieri, and with us today is Chris Keenan. Chris is the office manager at the South Grey Chamber of Commerce, located in downtown Flesherton. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Roger. Great to be here.
I've really been looking forward to chatting with you, Chris. You're the exact type of person that I was looking to get on this show as we kick off the Support Local podcast. If I understand your role correctly, you are essentially on the front lines of hyper-local economic development here in South Grey. Can you tell me a bit about your role, what the Chamber aims to accomplish, and the area in which you work?
Yeah, likewise, Roger. Thank you for having me on. So the South Grey Chamber of Commerce, we represent 4 municipal areas in the South Grey area. The Grey Highlands, West Grey, Chatsworth and Southgate. We are a small but mighty chamber. We do represent a local, mostly rural economy of small towns, a lot of mom and pop shops, but some big players up here as well. We have a large manufacturer just outside Markdale, and then a couple of big businesses like grocery stores and stuff are also members of the chamber. So we see everything from the from how it's affecting larger, medium businesses right down to the small, locally run trade businesses as well. So
and I would imagine at the best of times, Chris, you're dealing with issues for small businesses, but now there are bigger things at play here with potential tariffs, a looming trade war, or worse with the U.S. I assume that you're in constant contact with your membership. Can you tell our viewers the types of things you're hearing from the average small Canadian business here in Southwestern Ontario?
Absolutely, yes. And it hasn't been an easy few years for local businesses. We're just kind of getting back on our feet again after the COVID-19 pandemic, and that itself at the time was, it felt existential to a lot of businesses. It felt like there was harder times coming than a lot of people were prepared for. But getting through that, people started to find ways to cope, ways to change, and ways to get back on their feet. And now this is another, what feels again to be a big existential threat to local business. And certainly we at the chamber, we are a local chamber, but we're also connected into the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, which represents businesses at a provincial level. And a lot of the information that we're getting about the high level kind of business response to tariffs are coming from the Ontario Chamber. And it really is, as you say, Roger, it really is, the message is that, yes, the threat is there, and yes, it feels like it's going to, cause a recession, it's going to cause unemployment, it's going to cause cost to rise. These are the big concerns of our local businesses, but we're looking optimistically at it, and we're looking for the opportunity. And the big opportunity is that this is probably one of the best times, and certainly in my working career, where the sentiment out among local consumers and the people is a strong buy Canadian feeling that really hasn't existed to the strength that it has in recent years. And the Ontario Chamber of Commerce has recognized this as something that our political leaders, and especially our provincial and federal political leaders, are listening to what the Ontario Chamber has been saying for years, which is, we need to put more support into local business. We need to put more support into local infrastructure. And we need to ensure that our businesses are aware of how to market themselves to local consumers and to connect with other businesses, which is something the chambers do extremely well.
Yeah, it's really fascinating, the shift towards really supporting Canadian and supporting local. Like even that term support local, which sort of came out of the pandemic, even though it was something that was sort of discussed or practiced before, but under a different kind of name or moniker. Support local overnight, like a week or so ago, quite literally, took on a whole new meaning. So it's wonderful and refreshing to hear that the Ontario Chamber of Commerce is working diligently towards, looking for opportunities at a time like this. And I happen to agree. I think tough times bring out the best in people, and we are often forced to innovate to find solutions. Now, speaking of innovation, what types of things are you hearing out there, Chris, either from the Ontario Chamber level or at the sort of hyper-local individual business or member level about new strategies or tactics that businesses might take to sort of innovate to find opportunities at a time like this?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the like just before our meeting today, I was on a meeting town hall with the Ontario Chamber of Commerce this morning, and they were presenting the Ontario Economic Report, which was completed at the end of last year, and it was really like a very detailed statistical look at business confidence in Ontario, including all the different regions, which includes the South Grey region as well. And overall, you know, from that report, there was a low confidence in Ontario's economic outlook for 2025. It was up slightly from previous years, but only about 26% of businesses were confident that there would be a strong economic outlook for this year, although 46% expected to grow in the year. What I'm finding is, you know, and what we're hearing is that the least business confidence comes from sectors like retail and not-for-profit sectors, which are the first to feel the pinch when consumers' wallets start to pinch, which is, I think, the biggest threat of tariffs. And the biggest threat, you know, is we're already dealing with higher inflation. We're already dealing with cost of living increases across the board. So people's wallets are getting tighter, and when they do, it's the non-essential retailers and the not-for-profits that start to feel the effect first. They're also like almost like the canary in the coal mine. But it does stretch out to you know, to a wider business community. And you mentioned earlier about how the local businesses are feeling. You know, like when I'm speaking to our members, and honestly, Roger, they're angry. You know, when I talk to people on the phone, they're using language I'm not going to use on this podcast. You know, hopefully it's a family-friendly podcast, but they're saying we have 4 years of this to deal with. They feel betrayed. They feel, you know, the trust is taken away. They're feeling like it's just another thing, another challenge that's added to all the other challenges they're having. And as part of the South Grey Chamber of Commerce and as part of chambers of commerces across the entire province are doing, we want the local businesses to look for the opportunity in this unprecedented situation. At a provincial level, local businesses, we do need help, you know, and the Canadian Marketing Association has said that they will be supporting local businesses to understand how to do that local business drive. But we need trade barriers taken down provincially, is a big thing that you're hearing with a lot of local businesses. We want to make it easier to trade right across the nation. Obviously, the support local, the buy local sentiment in the consumer is really helping a lot of businesses who are local mom and pop shops, who do buy local merchandise, who produce local merchandise and produce and everything else. We're letting them know that that sentiment is there to tap into, and that, you know, to feel optimistic.
Yeah, it's interesting too when you talk about marketing and involving the Canadian Marketing Association. I mean, this is a great marketing tool. Obviously, having a podcast that generates, you know, social media content and reels and so forth. So even like this concept has sprung out of necessity. This, you know, arguably innovative type of podcast and marketing mechanism. So, you know, that could be applied to this scenario as well. Now, what is your own sort of personal take on where things are going to go? Like, if you could fast forward even a month, I mean, things tend to change on the daily here. But let's assume that these tariffs take effect. How do you think that's going to play out for your local members, and what types of things can they do to put in place to sort of mitigate any type of negative outcomes?
Yeah, it's a good question, Roger. You know, certainly from what I understand, just talking to local businesses and stuff, first of all, the concerns are that the cost of goods is going to rise, and the cost of goods rising does have a knock-on effect right across the board. Restaurants have to deal with the cost of food products rising. A lot of retailers, our economies really are so intertwined, the US and the Canadian economy, and so much flows back and forth across our border that really any supply chain or any produce or any merchandise or products, people are going to feel a rise with the tariffs. We've seen when they were threatened the first time that Canada will retaliate almost immediately with like tariffs on the US. So, they say nobody comes out a winner in a trade war, and that's true. Nobody comes out a winner. It affects everybody. It affects confidence, it affects trust. It's negative right across the board. Now, again, as I'm saying, we want to stay optimistic here. We want our businesses to stay optimistic. So when I'm speaking to our local members, first of all, I'm letting them know that this is a great time to be part of your local Chamber of Commerce, because what we do is that it's our role to market local businesses. It's our role to connect local businesses together to find opportunities of how they can work together, how they can support each other in different ways. We do lots of networking events and stuff throughout the year. We do business awards galas. We do big local community events. The Chamber is in charge of running most of the major community events in the South Grey area. And we ensure that is an opportunity for vendors to get in front of consumers in new ways that is personal and helps them to build relationships with those consumers. You probably know yourself, Roger, that we have a big home and garden show coming up in Flesherton in April. And we would hope to have between 60 and 80 local businesses at that home and garden show, and several thousand people over the course of a weekend coming in to connect personally with the local business owners, to find out what they do, to find out how they can help with all their home and garden needs. And that's just one of many ways that we try to support the businesses in the area.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of, we're going to have to get through this together. We're going to have to work through it as a team, as a community, as a province, as a nation, and just supporting each other as much as we can, to support locally. I think that means more now than it ever has, certainly even after COVID. Any final thoughts, Chris, just to folks listening? Like, the intent of this podcast is really to reach out and get insight from people like yourself, like leaders in business, small business owners, politicians, to get a sense as to what's happening at sort of a national level. So I appreciate you being the first representative from Ontario on the show. But if you wanted to leave our viewers with anything, what would that be?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to say, this is a great idea for a podcast that you're doing, Roger. I think it's very timely, it's very relevant, and I really hope it finds a big audience, because now more than ever, supporting local is probably one of the most important things we can do as Canadians. It's certainly, community is essential, and that's, as in the South Grey Chamber of Commerce, we will be very focused on our local communities, as will chambers all across the province, and we'll ensure that the information that's coming from the Ontario Chamber of Commerce is passed down to our local members, and that they have educational resources, they have strategies for dealing with tariffs, they have outlooks ahead, what to expect, so a lot of that information will keep our members informed. What I would say to business owners out there, as final thoughts, is to stay confident. Don't let despair take over. Don't let the threats make you feel like, that your business is under threat as well. I feel like there's still so much opportunity out there. There's a new revived Canadian pride in buying local and supporting local. Let's tap into that. Also keep an eye out for a lot of like Grey County, the municipalities, the chambers of commerce, the a lot of business associations are putting on series of webinars and educational resources to keep people informed on the best way to navigate uncertain times ahead. And another thing that came from the Ontario Economic Report is that 78% of businesses this year plan to use emerging technologies in their operations. We're at a cusp of some very innovative business tools that can help the businesses expand and grow and market to their current markets, and also to find new markets and new groups. And let's hope that that as Canadians, we support each other, we connect locally, and we really stay focused on optimism and opportunity ahead.
Very well put. Thank you so much for that, Chris. And I really appreciate you joining us on the show. Again, that's Chris Keenan. He is the office manager at the South Grey Chamber of Commerce located in Flesherton, Ontario. All of his contact information will be in the notes below on our YouTube channel. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time on the Support Local podcast.